Hey gang, Jules here for FGS, and I tell you what, isn't it lovely when a video game comes out of nowhere and just blows us all away? Surprise hits are indeed a rarity, but when they hit, my god, they hit hard. And while I'm actually a huge advocate for transparency within the gaming industry, it sure is nice to have not seen a banger title coming that ends up changing everything. However, one thing that's not changing is the fact that I'm not alone in this video, as I've taken Infernal Demon Kane's comment from last week's episode to be made into a full-fledged entry here. And if you want to be a part of next week's video, then have a good think about what you'd pick as a game using Unreal Engine 5 that looks absolutely unbelievably good. I want to celebrate the tech and the graphics, so tech heads, let me know below. But for now, let's have a chat. As I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 10 video game surprise smash hits. Number 10, Helldivers 2. Though 2015's top-down shooter Helldiver ended up selling 4 million units, its long-gestating sequel arrived last year on a rather muted wave of anticipation. Some fans of the original were skeptical about Helldivers 2's decision to ditch the top-down perspective in favor of third person, and it just didn't seem like the game was going to break out and grow the franchise much at all. But oh, how wrong we all were. Helldivers 2's addictive just one more go gameplay loop and tongue-in-cheek personality made it an instant hit, enough so that the first 2 weeks of release saw persistent server issues as developer Arrowhead Game Studios struggled to meet demand. Within 3 months, Helldivers 2 had sold an eye-watering 12 million copies, making it the fastest-selling PlayStation title, and say it with me kids, of all time! It's a staggering result for a game which simply seemed like it would be good but not great when it came to business in the weeks leading up to its release. If you haven't already played it, Helldivers 2 is available on PlayStation 5 and PC. Number 9, Animal Well. Now, Metroidvanias are a dime a dozen these days, so it can be really tricky for even really good ones to stand out in the crowded field. But Animal Well did just that this past May, receiving near universal critical praise for its unique art style and unconventional take on the Metroidvania formula. For a game that was developed by a single person and even given away for free on launch for PlayStation Plus subscribers, it's nothing short of a triumph that it holds the number 7 spot on Metacritic's list of best 2024 games. As for how developer Billy Basso pulled all of this off and amassed an estimated 400,000 sales on Steam, well, he made a Metroidvania game that also managed to appeal to people who typically don't like Metroidvanias. Animal Well has no combat to speak of, instead touting a greater emphasis on puzzle solving, platforming, and non-linear exploration, ensuring that the genre's tendency for spiky repetition was considerably pared down. Animal Well is available for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch, and the PC. Number 8, Inscryption. I can't do it, gang. I can't hold my cards close to my chest any longer. I just have to join Infernal Demon Kane and their unabashed praise for Inscryption, because TLDR, this game is brilliant. It's also absolutely unhinged, combining horror, puzzle solving, and card games together with a liberal sprinkling of fourth wall shattering, making it one of the most viscerally engaging titles that I've ever played. And it's also one of the only titles in recent memory where my friends went utter d***bags and actively chose not to spoil any of the surprises. I mean, trust me, when you work in this industry, you get everything ruined day one, so for the likes of Big Mouth Millman to keep her mouth shut about the surprises in store actively sold me on the quality of this game. Love you, Ash.
What the f***?
Upon completion, it feels like you're part of a secret society, all winks and nods as to whether you got to this certain part or what choices you made along the way, but all are unified in their love for a card game so good that I genuinely wish it was a real thing. In short, there is no other way for me to describe it other than just play this game. It's so good. Number 7, Palworld. The moment that Palworld was revealed, it became clear that developers Pocket Pair weren't in any way trying to disguise its obvious inspiration from Pokemon. Even with the game's big hook, with it it's basically Pokemon with guns, many were still left skeptical that Palworld would be anything more than a passing curiosity that quickly evaporated into the cultural ether. But within 6 days of its early access launch, Palworld ended up selling 8 million units, and after a month had sold a staggering 15 million copies. A year on, the game continues to enjoy upwards of 50,000 concurrent players on Steam, an apparent testament to the beguiling fusion of gameplay styles, combined with a darker tone more likely to appeal to older players. Games like this live and die on the strength of their community, and though Palworld's numbers are way down from their peak shortly after release, it's still an unfathomable out-of-nowhere success any way you slice it. Number 6, Balatro. It's impossible to talk about recent surprise smash hit games without fawning over Balatro, the poker-flavoured rogue roguelike deck-building game which felt like it took over the world last year. And even if you instantly bounce off of a game the moment you hear the words roguelike deck builder or simply find poker too confusing to even entertain, Balatro's fusion of these elements results in something wholly new that also feels incredibly intuitive. Its ability to appeal to both poker fans and those entirely averse to it likely explains Balatro's runaway success, earning some of the strongest reviews of any 2024 game and selling 5 million copies as of early 2025. It's also won a bevy of major industry awards, including Best Independent Game, Best Debut Indie, and Best Mobile Game at the Game Awards, as well as a Game of the Year nomination. For a title that could have easily been beloved and yet failed to break out of its clear niche, all of this success is brilliantly bewildering. Number 5. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Long-starved Prince of Persia fans had some initial mixed feelings about the latest entry into the series being a Metroidvania-esque 2.5D side-scroller, but to Ubisoft's credit, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown turned out to be one of the series' best entries to date, and arguably one of the strongest Metroidvania-adjacent titles of the past decade. While players will spend much of the game exploring labyrinthine locales and revisiting them with newly minted powers, The Lost Crown is also incredibly approachable. With its abundance of anti-frustration features such as the ability to pin screenshots to your map, this is a Metroidvania-esque offering that also has a deep respect for your time. This resulted in unexpected rave reviews from critics and players alike, and though sales initially fell short of Ubisoft's lofty expectations, The Lost Crown ultimately shifted 1.3 million units within its first year. Those are rock-solid numbers for an entry into a niche genre that also happened to be sold for a hefty $50 on launch. But more importantly, The Lost Crown's esteem has continued to grow as time has passed, a far cry from the initial knee-jerk response that it was merely a low-effort cash-in on a popular IP. Number 4. Mouthwashing. Psychological horror game Mouthwashing launched rather quietly last September, though quickly became a word-of-mouth hit on social media. Without going into too much detail, the game follows 5 crew members facing catastrophe on board their spaceship, and it gained considerable attention for its uniquely disquieting atmosphere, evocative writing, and skin-crawling retro visual style. Streamers swiftly latched on to Mouthwashing, and soon a viral hit was born, enough so that developer Wrong Organ announced in early 2025 that their twisted 3-hour masterpiece had sold more than 300,000 copies. For a game produced on a low budget by a small team, that is a phenomenal result, especially considering how many more folk likely experience the game vicariously through live streamers rather than actually playing it themselves. Mouthwashing could have easily become just another of the many well-crafted horror games on Steam that struggled to find an audience, but from its bizarre title to its macabre visuals and gnarly story, it's thankfully captured the public's imagination. Number 3. Infinity Nikki. Who could have ever predicted that one of 2024's most talked about releases would be a free-to-play open-world dress-up game? Infinity Nikki is actually the 5th entry into the Nikki franchise, but only the first to leap from mobile platforms to console and PC. Reimagined as something of a Genshin Impact-like affair, it consequently took over the world by storm when it launched last December. For many, Infinity Nikki's combination of open-world exploration with dressing up made it a hugely endearing novelty. Collecting the gorgeous outfits and just soaking in this breathtaking world is reason enough to give it a try, even if you're not a fan of gacha games. And its success so far is undeniable, scoring 20 million downloads in its first week alone and grossing $16 million in its first month. While it remains to be seen whether or not Infinity Nikki can go the distance like Genshin Impact, things are certainly looking good so far. Number 2. Buckshot Roulette. Sometimes all it takes is a delightfully unhinged idea to win players over, and that's precisely what happened with Buckshot Roulette. The game, which sees the player partake in an especially deranged version of Russian roulette with a pump-action shotgun, quickly became popular on Twitch and TikTok after it launched at the very end of 2023. But Buckshot Roulette truly fired into the stratosphere when it hit Steam last April, where it sold 1 million copies in just 2 weeks. Not content to be a mere flavor of the month streamer bait though, its sales momentum continued throughout 2024, aided by the addition of an online multiplayer mode in October. As a result, the game ended the year with a stonking 4 million copies sold. This is simply a winning fusion of deliciously weird, easy to pick up gameplay, hypnotic art design, and a perfect launch price of just £3. This is a game that offers a simple yet smart reimagining of a classic idea we're all familiar with, allowing it to stand out from a crowded field. And number 1, UFO 50. Of all the video games released in the past year, you'd struggle to find one more value-filled than UFO 50. A compilation of 50 retro-styled games developed over the past decade, UFO 50 presents itself to players as a genuine old-school video game compilation. And yet, while each of the games contained within could easily pass for a real 8-bit title from decades past, the beauty of UFO 50 is the subtle yet brilliant ways in which familiar retro games have been iterated to suit modern gaming sensibilities. Sure, you're unlikely to love every single game in the collection, but there's so much love and care packed into this thing that you're sure to find yourself endlessly hooked to at least half of them. While hard sales data on the game isn't freely available, it currently holds an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam from more than 5,000 reviews, and made its way into many year-end best-of lists, as well as receiving major nominations from the Golden Joysticks and the Game Awards. For a title that could have been a mere passing nostalgia-soaked fancy, it's a true delight to see it have some unexpected staying power. And there we go, my friends, those were 10 video game surprise smash hits. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, and also put down there what you picked as a game that's using Unreal Engine 5 that looks absolutely stonkingly great. I want to know. If you want to follow me over on the social medias, you can go over to Blue Sky, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friend, and I hope that you're treating yourself well with love and respect, because you deserve the bloody best. All right, now get out there and smash it, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.